This is a different format than my computer. How do I get this to presentation mode? Can somebody help me? Oh, so easy. Well, first I want to say how proud I am to be here and impressed with the large size of this audience. It's pretty amazing that so many people would come to an educational opportunity like this to introduce Lean and Six Sigma to your businesses and your industry that I'm convinced will increase the competitiveness of your companies in a very competitive global market and bring the important value of more prosperity to the people of your country. So I applaud you for what you're doing. What I want to do is share with you my experience. I joined Toyota more than 36 years ago and have had an opportunity to learn many things by solving many problems as we grew from a very small company to a very large company. And since I've retired about 8 years ago, I've been supporting other organizations and trying to take what was just natural for the way we acted and try and interpret that and explain it to other companies. And I think with that, I can perhaps help you in your Lean journey. I didn't have a training program on this. But, can I have some help again? Let's just put this one. Can I do it with this? It's complex. Huh? It's more complex, maybe. You should use this button. Okay. I have to stand here. Basically, what I want to do is share my experience over the career, and what I'm going to do is, rather than talk about the tools and methods of the Toyota production system, I'm going to try and explain characteristics that really have more to do with the leadership and management of the system. And then we'll summarize to help you draw some conclusions. This is a picture of the current national headquarters for Toyota Motor Sales USA, where I worked. And when I retired in 2000, these are some statistics. We're about $30 billion in sales. Our parts business was over $2 billion. We had about 10,000 employees and a number of other operations in addition to the normal activities of a sales company. This is a history. You can see in the upper right-hand corner a picture of the original Toyota national headquarters in 1957. It was an old Nash dealership in Hollywood, California. The company was not very successful at the beginning. The first year we sold a total of 288 cars. In 1965, the Corona was introduced, which was the start of our success. Sales that year were 5,000 vehicles. Then the Corolla was introduced in 68, and by 1975, we passed Volkswagen and became the #1 selling import brand in North America. In blue are the timing of the startup of our North American plants. In 1989, we launched the Lexus division. The NAPLD stands for North American Parts Logistics Division. I will explain more about that. That's a division I managed for the last 8 years of my career. Our manufacturing headquarters was started at the same time, and by last year, our sales had risen to 2.6 million vehicles in the United States. Organization, we have a national headquarters in Torrance, California, 12 regional offices for Toyota, 4 for Lexus, and about 1,400 dealers. In 1985, none of this manufacturing footprint that's shown on this slide existed. So all of this has been built in just a little over 22 years. This summarizes my career. I started in product planning, where we established a new product planning organization. We did more problem solving when I moved on to the marketing department. We changed advertising agencies and worked to establish Toyota's brand image in the United States. I then ran the product planning department at a time when we had to totally redesign our lineup because of the corporate average fuel economy and the introduction of new technologies such as front-wheel drive and many computers in vehicles. I then moved to the service side, where we learned how to deliver on the promises we made in our marketing activities, working in warranty and customer relations, and then running our technical services operation at a time when we were introducing a lot of new technologies and had to solve the problem of not only training our 6,000 dealer technicians, but growing that to 9,000 technicians within 5 years because of our rapid growth in the number of cars on the road. I then ran the corporate service operations for the United States at a time when we were beginning to launch our North American manufacturing and dramatically increase our sourcing from North American suppliers. As an outgrowth of the challenges there, I led the establishment of a new department responsible in a sales company for engineering development and quality management and developing of our North American suppliers to source more vehicle conversions. Specifically, we made a convertible vehicle and to dramatically grow our accessory business. I then was assigned as a vice president to manage a subsidiary company that processed over 1 million vehicles at our ports of entry, installing accessories. Implementing the Toyota production system, we were able to improve the performance of this company from a $500,000 a year loss to a $10 million profit within 2 years. And then the biggest challenge came when we established the North American Parts Logistics Division to support the sourcing of service parts from our North American suppliers. And that was a major challenge that got bigger and bigger, and I will explain the details of our problem solving and results there. I've searched my memory for the things I've experienced over the last 36 years, and now especially in consulting with other companies, I've identified 4 things that I think really differentiate Toyota and the Toyota business culture. It's a business culture that makes Toyota successful in implementing lean, and I think these characteristics can be incorporated into your companies to make you more successful as well. The first is really a sense of purpose and how that drives our values and the way we think about our work and problem solving. The second is how we design and manage our operations to continually improve our business processes, not just in manufacturing, but in every part of the business. Third is how we design the work that's done not only in manufacturing, but in product development, in human resources, in finance, in sales, so that we surface problems and solve them continuously to create continuous improvement. And finally is the philosophies and the methods by which we manage people to engage every single person in the organization in problem solving for continuous improvement. We'll talk first about purpose. You can go to the Toyota Motor Corporation International website and see these slogans. We want to be a good citizen. We want to provide services that satisfy our customers. We have a relationship of long-term mutual trust and respect with our employees and with our business partners. But I think the key point is that these purpose and values drive our problem-solving culture, our continuous improvement culture. And when we talk about customers, it's not just the people who bring revenue to our company. They are members of society, and we, as a major company in society, have an obligation to society and to serve our customers as part of that society. The same thing applies to our business partners. Their prosperity and success allows them to fulfill their roles to society, and our values are very strong in that regard. And certainly with our employees. I always said to the people that worked for me as we were asking for their support and cooperation, I feel a personal obligation to make sure that our company prospers so that they can work at our company for the rest of their career and that their children and that their grandchildren can come and work at our company. And I personally feel it's a failure of my responsibility to the people who rely on us for their well-being if we do not meet that obligation. I think the real difference about Toyota and what we see, at least in America, with all of the financial engineering, the companies that are bought and sold, is and every time a new CEO comes in, the philosophy changes, the values change, and a lot of things change. That doesn't happen in Toyota. From the very beginning, the Toyota family, which owns only 4% of the stock of the company, has had a major influence on the values and the culture and the purpose that drive what we do, which makes it very easy for now employees around the world. The direction is always the same, and so they can go forward with confidence doing what they do to make the company stronger by solving problems. We learned a lot. We learned first from failure. The original car was a disaster. It was not designed for American roads and was withdrawn from the market within 2 years after selling only a small quantity. And in 1965, the Corona was designed specifically with American driving needs in mind. And this whole customer-first philosophy, I think, is derived very much from that kind of learning experience. In fact, customer first, dealer second was a slogan I heard when I first joined the company. It's a slogan of the founders and is practiced to this day. A number of examples. There's very few Japanese words in here, but one that we use a lot is Genshi Genbutsu. It means go look, go see. Go to the actual place where the situation is, where the problem exists, where you need to learn what we should do to satisfy our customers. I think one of our most famous examples is the chief engineer for designing the Sienna minivan. It's the first van designed for the U.S. market. He committed 6 months of time, drove 50,000 miles in every state of the United States and all 5 provinces in Canada. He went to the supermarket and watched how ladies were loading the groceries into the car. He drove on windy roads, on mountainous roads, on country roads. He went to the home improvement store and saw contractors loading building materials into the vehicle and so forth, and then designed obviously a very successful product. In our service operations, I learned some good lessons also about Toyota's commitment to customer satisfaction. There was a period of time when many automakers were advertising a longer warranty to create a competitive marketing advantage, a sales point. Well, being naive, we asked for the same thing. But Toyota would not warrant the car for a longer period than it was designed to last. They would not lie to the customer and say, you have a long warranty, and then have them have problems with the car that didn't match the warranty. And it wasn't because we were cheap, because on the other side, we did have product problems, especially as we introduced new technologies. And to a greater degree than any other manufacturer, we took care of those problems even after the cars were out of warranty. We also had the experience during the energy crises, when oil prices went very high and there was shortages of gasoline. And also our marketing people wanted to have a high fuel economy rating as a sales point against the competitors. But again, Toyota would not sacrifice the drivability standards because they have high fuel economy on the label when you buy the car, and then go drive it later and it stumbles and it won't climb up steep hills easily and things like that. It's not a satisfying owner experience. So we put the customer first, and actually were very successful because people were very happy with their fuel efficient vehicles that we sold. And I think we also learned it from example of our parent company. We were their customer and they treated us with respect. The results of these kinds of values is we've won more J.D. Power quality awards than any other manufacturer. Fortune magazine does an annual survey of the most respected companies in the world, and Toyota is consistently the most respected among the automakers. And I think most importantly to me is that we have a business culture where people make decisions with integrity, that they do what's right for the customer and are not bound by a lot of internal politics. In terms of how we improve our processes, like every company, we want to see measurable business results, and Toyota's business results are certainly impressive. However, we recognize that the financial results are the result of a process, but it reflects the past performance of the process. So for us, it's far better to create a process that we can manage right now and identify and solve problems right now. So how do we do that? Well, one of the major techniques is Hoshin Kanri. In English, it's strategy deployment. I hope the simultaneous translator is giving you the Turkish version. Essentially, it means results management and means management. In other words, what methods are we going to use to achieve the objectives? Now, every organization is organized by functions, and normally the objectives are deployed from the management to each of those functions. For purchasing, to reduce purchase costs; for production, to improve productivity or improve quality, for example. And the discussion about the objectives is largely negotiating around what the numbers should be, but not a lot of discussion about how it should be done. The difference is in a lean organization that implements Hoshin Kanri, there is a lot of discussion about how it will be done. There's this cross-organizational cooperation and coordination around the horizontal flow of value through the organization. So in this process, every manager develops an annual plan that shows the objective, the target, the timeline of the activities, and most importantly, the supporting departments. The objectives are cross-referenced to the company goal, so they're directly aligned with supporting the company's objectives. Very importantly, very, very importantly, the supporting departments are identified, and then the fighting starts. How many of you have more manpower than you need to do your job? Anybody? You do? Good. How many of you have a budget that's bigger than you need? How many of you get asked to do more things than you're able to do? A lot more hands there. So when a colleague comes to you and says, I have this project in my area and I want your support, you may or may not be able to say yes. So there's a lot of fighting, arguing, negotiating. In Japanese, they call it catchball, where people prioritize, but at the end of the day, there is a firm commitment that the supporting department is going to support your project. And you make an equal commitment to support theirs. The plan is in place before the year starts, and the commitment of support is there, which has forced you to talk cross-organizationally with your colleagues about how are we going to improve the flow of value to the customer? How are we going to improve our business processes in this flow of value to the customer? Once that's done, we then want to implement what we call a floor management system to engage every single employee in now achieving these annual plans. So we deploy them all the way down to the working level on the factory floor and in the offices. And it's this visualization that makes the Hoshin usable. At every work site, in every area of your company, people should know what's expected. Where is the company going? Where is their department going? What are the objectives, the key performance indicators? What is the annual plan can be on the wall so everybody can see where they are versus what the plan was that was made at the beginning of the year. So people first know, what should we be doing? Number one factor in good performance. Secondly, how should we do it? What is the process? Well, in Lean, we use a number of things, such as 5S, basic rules for each process, standardized work, standard operating procedures. But basically, we define each of the daily activities. And thirdly, we want to then give feedback. How are we doing against the objectives and the process that we agreed to? And so those results are made visible for the people. And by problem solving, where we don't meet the objectives, we further improve our processes. Some examples: Yuki Togo was our very energetic president of Toyota Motor Sales USA for 10 years, starting in 1984. He talked about the 3 C's and the 2 P's: communication, cooperation, and consideration. That's that cross-organizational cooperation that makes Toyota unique and much more successful. And then we have a partnership with our employees and our business partners, all focused on productivity. This cross-organizational cooperation is also very strong between the factory side and the sales side, where we balance our objectives and have agreements on what they'll produce and what we sell, and both sides honor their commitments. There's also something very important for business partners. Most organizations, there's a lot of people at the working level that work as hard as they can cross-organizationally, but it's not as efficient as it can be if we create what we call a top-to-top relationship, where the top managers of both organizations at least know each other. You know, when a supplier came in to visit my people, they would always bring the supplier in to say hello. So we had a personal relationship. And part of that personal relationship extended to an agreement as to how we would communicate and cooperate to solve problems between our two organizations. If there was ever a problem, I could call the top guy and get his organization to help support us. The people in the middle of the organization, knowing that we were there to support from the top, were much more effective at solving problems at their own level. This worked with our suppliers. It also worked in a case, the lesson that I learned. We were buying our first cars from NUMMI. NUMMI is a joint venture between General Motors and Toyota. And because of the relationship with General Motors, we were buying those cars without warranty. So we had an inspection before we would take ownership of the vehicles. And at the beginning, there were many quality problems. And so we were sending many cars back for rework. Well, Mr. Convis, who just recently retired as the president of production for all of North America, was the plant manager at the time, and my manager at NUMMI. They were arguing with each other because we were creating a lot of extra work sending these cars back. And I got a call from the director in charge of quality in Japan, who is an old friend of mine, and he said, "Bob, at Toyota, we solve problems by getting along. You know, please develop a good relationship with Mr. Convis." So I called Mr. Convis, and we developed a very friendly relationship, and we were much more effective at solving the problems that needed to be solved to help them improve. Another example of process thinking is the problem-solving process that's used with what we call in Toyota A3. A3 is the size of a piece of paper, but basically it's the QC story from total quality control or total quality management, where we identify the problem and the business case for solving it, identify the current condition in a diagrammatic form to specifically identify the problems that need to be solved, create a target condition and targets to measure our results, and then an action plan. It's basically like a design of an experiment. The results we have achieved is that in every part of the business, we created a system where quality is built into the process and we get good results. At our Kentucky plant, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky, where they build 500,000 vehicles a year, the first run ratio off of an assembly line, which is building a car with about 15 to 20,000 components, is 85%. And if there are the minor touch-ups or whatever is necessary or adjustments on the other 15% are completed online. But to make sure that we're building quality and process, at the end of each line there are 4 stalls shown by those lines on the right-hand side. We have 3 lines in the plant, so the total of 12 stalls for a car that builds about 2,500 cars a day. When those 4 stalls are filled, these are for cars that require repair offline, the line stops until the problem is solved and we can get back and start the line again. But we want to build the quality in the process. The paint department has a similar situation. They have 30 stalls for the 2,500 cars they paint a day. If those stalls are filled, the line stops. Another system thinking example, when I was running Vehicle Processors Incorporated, our vehicle processing subsidiary, where we installed a lot of accessories, this added to the lead time, but a lot of lead time was created because we'd schedule all of the shipments for a dealer at the same time, and they would go out into a load line that became a large crowded lot. So the solution was that we scheduled the vehicles based on the lead time to install the accessories and prepare them for shipment. And they went out they arrived within a 2-hour window in a single load line, which allowed the truck driver to pick them up the next hour and load them directly on the truck, where in the previous situation, it took up to 45 minutes to search around the large lot full of cars and get the vehicles that he needed onto his load. The results was that we dramatically reduced the lead time and lowered our costs, certainly lowered the cost of inventory, and the trucking company was more productive because they could now make an extra trip a day with the truck because of the lower loading time. And this is quite honestly, my proudest accomplishment, where I spent the last 8 years of my life, and the satisfaction is because it was the biggest challenge, and we got some very remarkable results. We experienced very rapid growth of North American production, which resulted in a very rapid growth of sourcing of service parts from North American suppliers. The problem we had is that our American suppliers were not performing like the suppliers from Japan, with substantially lower on-time delivery, which resulted in us doing a much worse job of satisfying our dealers, even though we had 60% more days supply of inventory. The situation was that in the early days, up through 1985, all of the cars and trucks we sold were built in Japan, and the service parts came from those suppliers. By the early 90s, we were building 1.2 million vehicles in North America and exporting them to 25 countries around the world. We'd exported over 400 vehicles. So we established this three-pole concept, which in North America involved the building of 2 million square foot North American parts centers and transferring major responsibilities from Japan. This is our old supply chain. Basically, we ordered parts from the depots in Japan. They had the relationship with the suppliers, and we supplied them to U.S. dealers. When we implemented our North American operations, we had those old operations, but by this time we had North American suppliers, wholly owned Toyota plants, as well as the joint venture with NUMMI. And we established the North American Parts Logistics Division with new parts centers in California and Kentucky, supplying not only the U.S., but all 7 North American distributors, as well as General Motors, and sending parts to Japan and Europe to service the vehicles that we had exported. We built a 1 million square foot facility in California, this facility in Kentucky, which was even larger. And this is our distribution network. You can see at the bottom, 535 suppliers with many international shipments as well. What we did is we implemented what we call just-in-time logistics under the slogan of sell one, buy one, make one. So basically, every day the dealers ordered exactly what they sold. We replenished that daily, and we ordered replenishment from our suppliers daily. The reasons for this are a couple of background things. One is generally market demand information, starting on the right side over there. Market demand is relatively level, but as you increase the lead time from order to delivery, or if you have variation in that lead time, one time the dealer orders the part and it comes in one day, and the next time it takes 6 weeks, and the next time 4 days or whatever.